The sound her suitcase made when she zipped it closed, I'll never forget it. Not because it was loud, but because it was final. Like the door of a vault locking. Like she wasn't packing for a weekend, but for a version of herself I wasn't allowed to see. I'll text you when we land, she said, not even looking up. Land where? She never told me the location. Just going away with the girls. Back Monday. Don't worry. That phrase echoed in my skull for hours. Don't worry. The last time she used those words was the day she told me her phone died, after ignoring 3 of my calls while out late with coworkers. That time, she came home smelling like whiskey and someone else's cologne. This time, she didn't even bother hugging me goodbye. She tapped her phone twice, probably to summon a rideshare, then walked out the front door with a small, satisfied smirk. Not happy smug. No, more like she'd pulled off something clever. The second the door clicked, I stood there motionless, staring at the empty space where she'd stood. Then I did what any rational, insecure, emotionally exhausted man would do. I went upstairs to the guest room closet, opened the lockbox, and pulled out the old iPhone I'd found last year in her gym bag. The one she swore was dead. The one she didn't know I'd charged back to life. It wasn't dead. It was sleeping. And when it woke up, so did everything. New photos. New messages. Knew him. I didn't know his name yet, but he had a beard, a tattoo that looked like a lion eating a snake, and a hotel keycard with the logo of a resort we couldn't afford unless we sold a kidney. She'd saved his name in her phone as Wes, dog trainer. We don't have a dog. I stared at a recent message from 2 nights ago. I want your hands on me before we even get to the room. And his reply, already booked the same suite. Same view. Just us this time. My breathing got shallow. I was angry, sure. But beneath it, this horrible calm. The kind you feel before a tornado hits. The kind that lets you focus, not cry. I spent the next few hours doing what she never expected. Reaching out to the actual girls she said she was going with. 3 of them responded within 10 minutes. Wait, she said she was going with me? I haven't spoken to her since last month. Nope, she told me she was visiting her aunt in Michigan. Wait, what is happening? Every message was a nail in the coffin of her lie. Every fake plan she created was unraveling. By Sunday, I had a new plan. It didn't involve yelling. It didn't involve begging. It involved presence. Because when she walked back into that house Monday afternoon, cheeks flushed, suitcase rolling behind her, pretending like everything was fine, she found me sitting on the couch, calm, collected, with her 3 friends. I didn't say anything at first. I let the silence choke the room. Then I smiled and asked, "So, how was the trip with him?" She blinked. Once. Twice. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. And that's when I knew she hadn't packed enough for what was coming next. She didn't answer right away. Not even a blink. Just stood there, frozen in the doorway with the suitcase handle still clutched in her hand like it might pull her back in time. Her eyes darted past me to the 3 women sitting on the couch, her trip companions, who looked just as uncomfortable as I felt when I read those texts. She finally said it, barely above a whisper. What is this?" I didn't move, didn't raise my voice, just tilted my head and let the moment stretch until it snapped. I asked how the trip was. "You know, the one you told me you were going on with them." I motioned lazily toward the couch. "Thing is, they were a little surprised to hear you were traveling together, since none of them were invited." Her lips parted. The first lie was loading. I could see it forming in her eyes, that desperate scramble for anything that might stick. But whatever speech she'd practiced on the flight home clearly wasn't built for this. "Lol, I can explain." "No," I cut her off, still calm. "You can lie, but you're not explaining anything. Explaining would mean telling the truth, and I don't think you packed that in your carry-on." Her friends sat in silence. They didn't come for revenge. I didn't ask them to confront her. I just told them everything, showed them the receipts, and gave them the choice. They chose to come because, as Laurel put it, if someone used my name as an alibi to cheat, I'd want to be in the room when it collapsed. Marcy stepped inside slowly, her voice trembling now. "I wasn't with Wes. I swear to God. That was over. That was months ago. Wes." So now I had a name. I didn't react. Not to the lie, not to the accidental confession. I just stood up and walked into the kitchen, grabbing the folder I'd printed everything into, screenshots, photos, voice notes, hotel bookings, even the stupid little poem he sent her on Valentine's Day. I laid it gently on the coffee table like it was a gift. You were with him in Spokane, same suite as last month, same robe, same little heart on the cappuccino foam. You posted it once by mistake to your private story, remember? I looked back at her. I wasn't on it, but Laurel was. Marcy slowly sat down on the armrest, hands shaking. I noticed she still hadn't taken off her ring. The irony made me nauseous. This wasn't supposed to happen like this, she muttered. I leaned forward. Then tell me, how was it supposed to happen, Marcy? Were you going to come back with a tan and a fake story about spa days and sangria and yoga on a rooftop? Were you going to tell me how the girls helped you find yourself again? Or were you just going to sleep next to me for another 6 months while planning your next retreat with someone who calls you baby doll in text messages? Tears started rolling down her face now, but it didn't feel satisfying. It didn't feel like justice. It felt pathetic, small, like watching someone trip on their own shoelaces after running away from a house they burned down. I made a mistake, she whispered. I nodded. No, you made a series of choices. Don't confuse those two. She tried reaching for my hand. I pulled back. The silence was different now, not stunned, but aware. Her friends stood up, quietly gathering their things. None of them looked her in the eye. Lowell, she said again, this time more desperate, please. Can we just talk privately? We can talk to a lawyer, I said, grabbing my keys. You have 48 hours to pack your things and figure out where to go. Until then, I'll be staying at a hotel. Don't worry, I'll send you the address in case your dog trainer needs it. I left her sitting on the couch with nothing but a folder full of proof and mascara bleeding down her cheeks like confessions she never said out loud. When I closed the door behind me, the air outside felt lighter. Not good, not clean, but lighter. And in that moment, I realized something brutal. She didn't just cheat on me. She buried the version of me that believed love could survive neglect, silence, and lies. And she didn't even bother marking the grave. I checked into a roadside inn that smelled like lemon air freshener and bad decisions. The front desk clerk gave me a room key with the number 206 and asked if I needed 2 towels or 1. That question hit harder than I expected. I said just 1. Then I sat in the car for 10 full minutes before going inside. I couldn't even turn the engine off at first, like I didn't trust the silence waiting for me in that dim little room. The sheets were stiff. The lamp buzzed faintly. But I didn't care. It was temporary. Just a shell to crawl into while I figured out what the hell came next. By morning, I had 11 unread messages from Marcy. 1 was a paragraph of apologies. 3 were shorter, almost clipped, desperate attempts to sound calm, like she was bargaining with herself more than me. 1 simply said, "Please don't hate me." I didn't reply. By noon, the tone shifted. I could feel the panic behind the punctuation. The illusion was crumbling for her now. The image of the life she thought she could juggle. Wes on one side, a safe and clueless husband on the other. A picture-perfect marriage to post when she needed sympathy likes, and a private fantasy to live in when she got bored. But here's the twist she didn't see coming. I wasn't angry in the way she expected. I wasn't going to scream, threaten, break things. No, that would have made it easier for her, would have given her the permission to call me unstable or emotional. I was going to be ice. Controlled, colder than anything she'd prepared for. That night, I logged into our joint bank account. We didn't share everything, but we had a few link cards for groceries and essentials. She didn't know I had admin access. She never cared enough to look. Over the last 3 months, there were 5 separate payments made to a pet retreat and spa in Spokane, all billed under Wes Halston's name. Ironic, really. He registered it as a business expense. I guess keeping my wife warm counted as work. The kicker? One of the invoices included a wine tasting tour for couples. Marcy once told me she hated wine because it gave her headaches. I used to believe that. That night I made my first move. Nothing dramatic, just quiet and surgical. I called my lawyer friend Derek. Told him I needed documents drafted. Not for divorce. Yet, but something firm enough to make her nervous. We talked for 2 hours. Derek didn't ask for details. Just said, "I've seen that look before. It's the look of someone who just crawled out of someone else's fantasy." Before going to sleep, I sent her a message. Just one. "I won't hate you. That takes too much energy. I just don't want to know the version of you you've become." The next morning, she sent a wall of text. Over 500 words. I didn't read most of it. I just skimmed enough to see that she was back home, sitting in the kitchen, waiting for me to come talk. She even said she'd cook. She hadn't cooked in months. The problem with cheaters is they always assume the reset button still works. Like they think you'll come back, sleep in the same bed, and pretend like it was just a bad argument, not an entire campaign of deception. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove past the house at 7:42 p.m. The lights were on in the living room. Curtains open. She was standing at the window, phone in hand, staring out like she was the heartbroken one. And for a split second, I saw it, the performance. Tears she wanted me to see. Posture meant to look exhausted. A whole scene, framed like a movie still. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. That was the night I realized I wasn't chasing answers anymore. I was waiting for her mask to fall off, and I wanted her to feel it happening. Because the truth wasn't the most painful thing I could give her. It was silence and distance, and the version of me that no longer asked if she was okay. 3 days passed before I heard her voice again. Not in person, she didn't dare try that. Not through voicemail either, even though I could see she left 5. No, this time it came through Laurel, one of the women who sat on the couch that day, the one who watched Marcy's world buckle in real time. She called me around noon. "You need to know something," she said, her tone cautious, like she wasn't sure if she was doing the right thing. Marcy's shifting the story. I asked what she meant, even though I already knew. She told Heather and Dana that you'd been emotionally distant for years, that you had intimacy issues, that you shut down after your mom passed, and she tried everything, but you never opened up. It was like she'd pulled that monologue from a daytime talk show. Scripted, neatly packaged for sympathy. I felt it twist in my gut, not the betrayal of the cheating again, but the rewriting of the past, as if she'd submitted a revised draft of our marriage to people who weren't there to see the first version. She said she didn't technically cheat, Laurel continued. That she was emotionally gone long before Wes ever showed up. That she begged you to fix things, and you ignored her. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was this slow, dull laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. The woman who once called me her best friend was now constructing an alibi of emotional starvation, painting herself as the lonely wife who just needed someone to see her. What she didn't mention to them, conveniently, was that during those emotionally distant years, I was the one who signed her up for therapy when she said she couldn't sleep. I was the one who brought her dinner to her car when she said she needed space after a long day at work. I was the one who paid off her credit card after she overdrew it buying gifts for clients she refused to name. Marcy wasn't starved for love. She was addicted to the idea of being pursued. And when I stopped chasing, not because I didn't care, but because I thought she needed room, she decided to let someone else catch her. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into the shared cloud folder we used for house docs and bills. She probably forgot it even existed. Tucked away in a subfolder named Budget 2022 was a file called Trip Outlines. XLSX. Nothing suspicious at first glance. But one of the tabs was named Wellness Retreat, August. I clicked it. Inside was an itinerary, detailed, color-coded, and definitely not for a group of women. Notes like spa couples massage confirmed, request king bed, non-smoking, and a circled item. No photos, private entrance requested. That wasn't a retreat. That was a cover. I copied everything, backed it up. Then I added it to the growing file I was building. Not for revenge, not for court, not even for friends. For me. Because I knew what was coming. The gaslighting, the deflection, the rebranding of our marriage into a tragic monologue where she's the misunderstood protagonist. But here's the thing about being the quiet husband for so long. When you finally start telling the truth, people listen. Because they never heard you speak before. So I told Laurel everything. Not to weaponize her, but because I knew she still believed in truth over performance. And she confirmed what I suspected next. Marcy had started softly spreading the narrative that I was controlling. That I watched her location too much. That I was always suspicious. That I snooped through her stuff. She left out the part where I found the second phone. She left out Wes. She left out the hotel invoices. Truth, trimmed down to a shape that fit her hands. But fine. If she wanted to tell a story, I'd let her. I just wouldn't be in the audience. Instead, I made another call, this time to my cousin, Wade, who worked in property management. Marcy didn't know this, but Wade had access to short-term rentals all over town, private, clean, under the radar. I asked for one. I told him I'd pay cash. You okay, man? He asked. I paused. No, but I'm finally not pretending to be. That night, I moved my essentials out of the house. Not everything, just what I needed. I did it quietly, in 2 trips, while she was out meeting a friend to talk. I left the rest exactly where it was. Let her walk into the house and feel something missing. Let her sit with that silence. And for the first time since this all started, I stood alone in that empty room with one thought looping in my head. She thought she could twist the truth into something prettier. But now I was the one holding the pen. She found me on a Thursday. I don't know how. Maybe one of her friends caved. Maybe she followed my car one night. Maybe she used one of those stupid people finder apps that mine old Wi-Fi signals. Doesn't matter. What matters is that I was standing in the kitchen of my rental, making instant noodles and listening to a podcast about black holes, when someone knocked on the door like they owned the place. I knew it was her before I even looked. You can feel the air change when someone brings chaos with them. You can feel their heartbeat trying to crawl through the wood grain of your door. I opened it slowly, and there she was, Marcy, wearing the same gray hoodie she used to borrow from me when we'd watch movies on rainy Sundays. That stupid old hoodie with the tear under the left armpit, the one I stopped looking for 2 months ago because I thought it was lost in the move. It wasn't lost. She'd kept it like some kind of trophy or shield. Her eyes were puffy, no makeup, hair in a loose braid. Every inch of her screaming, "Look how broken I am without you." But the thing is, she wasn't broken. She was dressed as broken, like she wanted to play that part. Again, she didn't say hello. Just, "You're really gonna make me do this here?" I stood in the doorway and said nothing. Let her stew in it. Let her breathe in the unfamiliar air of a place she had no keys to, no claim to, no stories in. "I'm not here to fight," she said, crossing her arms, the first lie. I've been thinking," she continued, "about everything, and I think we lost track of each other. I think we got too quiet." I waited. "I know I messed up," she added, "but I wasn't happy, Lowell. I was drowning. I didn't know how to say it without making you feel small." That line made me tilt my head. Without making you feel small, as if she hadn't already done that by whispering love notes to another man in a hotel suite I paid the utilities for. As if cheating had been the gentle alternative to communication. "I didn't come here for a speech," I said finally. Her lip trembled. "Then why are you letting me talk?" "Because I wanted to hear how many versions of the truth you were going to try before you choked on one." She blinked hard, wiped under one eye. "God, you used to be kind." I almost laughed. "No," I said, "I used to be quiet. There's a difference." Marcy walked past me into the living room. I didn't stop her. She looked around at the minimal furniture, a couch, a lamp, a few books. Nothing sentimental. No photos. No shared blankets or half-burned candles. Just neutral space. Like I was trying to keep my soul untraceable. "You're really living like this?" she asked, almost incredulous. "I don't need much," I said. "Turns out, when no one's lying to you, peace takes up very little space." She sat on the edge of the couch like it still belonged to her. Like she thought that just by being here, she could rearrange the narrative. "I miss you," she whispered. "No," I replied. "You miss the version of me that didn't know better." The room grew still. She tried again. "You never asked me why." I nodded slowly. "Okay, why?" She inhaled, paused. "Because I didn't think you wanted me anymore." "That's a story you told yourself," I said. "I kissed you every morning. I held your hand when you pulled away. I bought you groceries, made you playlists, folded your damn laundry while you were texting him. If that's what not wanting you looks like, I'd hate to see what desire means in your world." Marcy opened her mouth, but said nothing. For the first time, her tears weren't calculated. They were real, confused, as if she expected the version of me who cried into his pillow 2 weeks ago, the one who begged her to come home when she said she just needed air. But he wasn't here. He was gone, and she didn't even hear him leave. "I didn't sleep with him, not that last time," she said quietly. "We just talked." I raised my eyebrows. "At the couple's resort?" She didn't answer. I took a deep breath, walked to the door, opened it, and then I asked the one question I'd been waiting to ask, not to trap her, not to win, but to finally get closure for myself. "If I hadn't found the phone, if I never saw the messages, would you have told me?" Her mouth opened, then closed. Her shoulders dropped just slightly. And that was it. The answer. No words needed. I held the door open. Marcy walked out. This time without the suitcase, without the smirk, without the safety net of a lie to land on. The door closed behind her, and in the silence, I felt something unexpected. Not relief, not victory, just the absence of performance. And that was finally enough. It came from a blocked number. 2 days after Marcy showed up at the rental, I was sitting on the porch, eating cold takeout straight from the container, when my phone buzzed with a message that had no name attached. Just a bubble of gray text that read, "You don't know the whole story." I didn't know either. I stared at it for a solid minute, wondering if it was spam, some anonymous troll, or maybe even Marcy playing games under a fake number. But before I could reply, another message came through. "My name's Wes. I know who you are. I think you need to know what she told me." My stomach turned. Not from shock. I wasn't surprised anymore. But from the familiarity of this feeling. The sense that every time I thought the fire had finally stopped spreading, I'd discover a new hallway quietly burning behind me. I didn't respond immediately. I screenshotted the messages, backed them up, then poured myself a glass of something stronger than I usually drink. I sat with it, letting the cold settle in my chest before I typed out a single reply. "Talk." He responded fast, like he'd been waiting for permission. What followed was a series of messages that twisted my already cracked perception of Marcy into something even uglier. Because, apparently, Wes wasn't the confident, tattooed Casanova I imagined him to be. He wasn't the villain, not completely. He was just another man who bought the same lie I had. And maybe for a while, even worse. Wes claimed they met through work, that part one knew. But he said she had initiated everything. Said she painted me as distant, cold, borderline controlling. That she told him she was basically single, that I was sleeping in a separate room and refused therapy, that we were waiting for the right time to separate, that I was too sensitive to handle the truth. And Wes believed her, because that's what Marcy did best. She told just enough of the truth to make her lies breathable. But then he dropped something new. "She told me you cheated first." I sat up straight, my hand clenched around the glass. "What?" I replied. "Said you had some emotional affair with your ex. That you'd confessed, cried, and begged her to stay. She said you blamed it on grief after your mom passed. Told me you weren't dangerous, just lost." I didn't ask questions. I just assumed you were the broken one. I don't know how long I sat there. 10 minutes? An hour? Long enough for my dinner to go cold and the sun to dip behind the trees. Long enough for the weight of it to hit me. Marcy hadn't just lied about what she did. She'd rewritten the foundation of our relationship in someone else's eyes. She turned my grief into a scapegoat, my vulnerability into ammunition, my dead mother, the one person who actually saw me, into a character in her romance scam. I stared at the house across the street. The light in the upstairs window flickered on. A couple arguing, then laughing. Normal, chaotic, real. I used to think that's what we were too. Another message from Wes came through. "I broke it off 3 days ago, before she came to your place. She showed up to mine the next night, crying, saying you manipulated her into thinking she was broken, that you wanted her to cheat so you could justify leaving." I had no words. Not for him. Not for anyone. And then, as if he couldn't stop himself, he wrote something that finally cracked me wide open. "She told me, Lowell only loves me when I'm sorry." That hit me weird, man. Like she needed someone to punish her so she could feel wanted again. There it was. Not just a confession, but a blueprint of how she operates. Marcy didn't just betray me physically. She trained me to become the version of a husband that made her feel like a victim. She constructed fights, then played the peacemaker. She triggered silence, then shamed me for not opening up. And the worst part? I fell for all of it. Not because I was dumb, but because I loved her so goddamn much I wanted her to be good. I thanked Wes for the truth. Told him not to contact me again. He agreed. I don't know if I forgive him. I don't know if he deserves it. But he gave me something Marcy never did. The full picture. That night, I sat down at my laptop and began writing. Not a rage post. Not a sob story. Just everything. A record. For me. For closure. For evidence, if it came to that. I wrote it all. Every message. Every red flag. Every lie. Every flicker of doubt I swallowed just to keep the peace. And when I was done, I clicked save. The file name? What she made me swallow. Because the thing no one tells you about betrayal is that it's not just the act. It's the slow erosion of your sense of what's real. And I wasn't going to let her rewrite my story anymore.